Sato is an ugly loser virgin with no riz, yet by pure chance he ends up marrying a baddie, who also happens to be the classmate he hates most. One morning they meet in the hallway before school and Akane grabs him by the tie, threatening to kill him if he reveals their secret. Turns out, 4 days earlier, Sato had married his rival, Akane, the very girl who constantly scolds him. The day before, she had berated him for messing up the class log, nitpicking every mistake until Sato snapped and told her to go read a book. She retorted that she was too busy fixing his bad attitude. Himari intervenes, asking Akane to go easier on Sato, but Akane shifts the blame, claiming he disrespects everyone. Himari questions why Akane is so obsessed with Sato, catching her off guard. Akane angrily denies having any feelings for him, shouting she'd never fall for him even if he were the last man alive. Just then, Shisai, a white-haired loli, shows up to comfort Sato, her cousin, bringing him some relief. Meanwhile, Akane and Sato continue bickering with equal irritation. After school, Sato gets a call from his grandfather, who requests a private talk. As the heir to the family company, Sato remains uninterested, prompting his grandfather to have him taken by force. Once inside a luxury car, the men accompanying him refuse to reveal their destination, apologizing for their master's abruptness. It's revealed that the Hojo group nearly collapsed during a major recession, but this Jiraiya-looking ass named Tenryu, Sato's grandfather, saved it by firing ineffective executives and turning it into a global tech giant. Even at 60, Tenryu is sharp and still runs the company. The driver mentions that despite appearances, the master cares for Sato more than his father did. Upon arriving at the residence, Akane appears and asks why he's there. Sato explains he was forced to come, and Akane says her grandmother did the same to her. They immediately start bickering over trivial things, but their grandparents arrive and laugh at their antics, seeing it as a sign they get along well. Inside, Tenryu announces that they are here to celebrate, though Sato and Akane have no idea why. Unable to stop arguing, they ask for an explanation, and the grandparents reveal their plan. They are getting married. Hearing that statement makes them drop their food in shock, completely horrified. Sato hopes it's just a metaphor or a riddle, while Akane, still in high school, remains clueless. Her grandmother Chiyo then mentions they only need to be 18 to marry and repeats that they are expected to wed Tenryu, as that he and Chiyo were once in love, but silly arguments drove them apart, leading him to marry the woman his parents chose. He provided a good life for her until she passed away 10 years ago, and he feels he has fulfilled his duty as a husband. Chiyo tells them she's been widowed for a long time, and Tenryu has been visiting her every night, though Akane quickly cuts her off, yelling not to give details. Tenryu explains that now, having lived their separate lives, they wonder what could have been if they'd stayed together, so they decided to bring their grandchildren together instead. Chiyo agrees and urges Akane to comply. As expected, Akane views it as selfish and insists she will marry for love, with Sato backing her up. Tenryu, unfazed, opens the door to the backyard and shows them a dog. There he warns Sato that if he refuses to marry Akane, he'll hand over the Hojo group to a stray dog he found, though he doubts it's capable of running the company. He adds that the group might die with him. Sato thinks he's insane, but his grandfather retorts, asking if sanity will help run a business. Chiyo pulls Akane closer and whispers a chilling threat that leaves her trembling. Tenryu then gives them 3 days to decide, ending their tense family meeting. After they leave, Sato and Akane avoid agreeing on anything due to their constant clashes and go their separate ways. Once in her room, Akane reflects on why she's always hostile toward him. It's because he always ranks first in class while she comes second. She calls Himari and asks what she'd do if forced into marriage. Himari immediately says she'd refuse, explaining she already has someone she likes. Shocked, Akane asks who, but Himari won't reveal it and turns the question back on her. Akane coldly replies that she only wants someone dead, thinking things would be easier if they died, even wishing for a meteor to hit them. Himari jokingly suggests marrying anyway to split bills and rent. Akane doesn't view those as valid reasons to marry. After that, Himari asks what she would do about what boys and girls do after marrying, referring to breeding. Akane finds it logical for having heirs, but only sees it as a way to have 100 babies, which leaves poor Himari even more alarmed. Meanwhile, Sato can't stop wondering why it had to be Akane, convinced she'd never stop bothering him at home if they ended up together. As Shisei stands beside him, she notices his distress and asks what's wrong. Sato explains that his grandfather insists on controlling his life and that if he refuses, a dog will inherit the company. She asks if he'd rather live freely or take over the Hojo group. Sato says he'd do both if possible, but she tells him no one can have everything. No creature is ever truly free. Instincts and rules bind everyone. The best option, she says, is to work within those limits rather than avoid them. Not inheriting is still a valid choice, and if he ends up homeless, she'll stick by him too. Sato feels uneasy about that, but she reassures him. She understands he needs the company to fulfill his dreams and promises not to interfere. Although Sato's life is full of challenges, she promises to stay by his side, and he expresses gratitude for her support. The next day, he greets Akane in class, but she seems uninterested in talking. 3 days later, the big decision moment comes. They both declare with determination that they'll get married. They're surprised by each other's responses, though Akane makes it clear she doesn't love him at all. Regardless, Sato informs his grandfather that they'll handle the paperwork and wedding plans after college. However, Tenryu reveals they already arranged everything. A new house and their marriage registration are complete. They're taken to their furnished love nest, leaving no chance to back out. After settling in, Akane desperately calls out to her grandmother not to leave, but the couple is left alone. Once inside, Sato locks the door, prompting Akane to accuse him of trapping her. He calmly explains it's just a typical thing, and the door unlocks from the inside. Ignoring him, Akane storms off, and they soon start unpacking boxes. Exploring the house, they discover a cozy bathroom with a romantic jacuzzi setup, while Sato finds a peaceful study room that seems perfectly fine to him. Hearing Akane scream, Sato rushes to her, and she nervously points out there's only one bed. He immediately calls his grandfather, who explains it's because they're a married couple and must follow rule number 1: no sleeping on the couch or floor. Despite Akane's protests, her grandmother even encourages her to be close with Sato. After hanging up, Sato worries there might be cameras watching them, but Akane cuts him off, accusing him of wanting to do something inappropriate. Though he denies it, she grabs a pencil, claiming all guys in these situations think dirty thoughts. She quickly runs off to unpack her things but trips on the stairs. Sato catches her, but she refuses to thank him, convinced he has ulterior motives. Later, he heads to the kitchen for dinner, and when Akane shows up hungry, he suggests they eat together. Misunderstanding, she accuses him of wanting to eat her, but he calmly offers her a slice of pizza. As soon as she takes it, she runs off again, distrustful. That night, Sato settles into bed, only to be surprised when she quietly lies down on the other end. The pair quickly realize the bed is cramped, suspecting their grandparents did it on purpose. Sato feels Akane's fresh, sweet scent lingering on his back, making him nervous. She warns him, if you try anything, you're a dead man. And she means it. She's never done this before, nor had a boyfriend. He reassures her to relax, admitting he's also inexperienced, which makes her feel slightly at ease. Changing the topic, Sato asks why she agreed to marry him, but Akane avoids the question, stating it's just a formality. She's unhappy about the rules but determined to comply to achieve her goal. When Sato wonders what she'll do if a rule about kids is added, Akane freezes and shifts back on the bed. In the process, Sato accidentally grabs her butt, prompting her to twist his finger, threatening to break it despite his protests that the small bed caused it. In the present, Akane sternly warns Sato that if he tells their classmates about their marriage, he's a dead man. They agree to keep it secret, but Akane's paranoia doesn't stop there. She even suggests to make him with a bomb that would detonate if he spills anything. Her extreme distrust leaves Sato stressed, marking the chaotic start of their married school life. After their conversation ends, Shizi approaches Sato and comments on his fresh shampoo scent, asking where he stayed the night. Sato tries to dodge the question, but Shizi points out she also smells a girl's scent. After biting his neck, she reveals she knows Grandpa's plan. She found out he secretly married Akane and already knows their address. Hearing this, Sato pulls her aside to talk in private. Shizi warns she isn't obligated to keep his secret and says he never asked for permission before getting married. Without waiting for his excuse, she demands something in return for her silence, hinting she hasn't decided what yet but now controls his fate. Later, in class, Akane complains to Sato as usual. Their interactions make others think they're a comedic duo or influencer couple. Hamori mentions that rumor, but Akane loudly denies being married, though Sato mentally notes that they actually are. At home, Akane asks why the fridge is full of juice boxes. Sato explains it's concentrated vegetable juice packed with vitamins to keep them healthy. Akane dismisses it as silly and says a balanced diet is better. He then shows her a pantry stocked with instant noodles, causing her to scream in horror. Akane relaxes slightly and asks Sato where the proteins are. He explains that's what protein shakes are for, but once he finishes making it, the result looks awful. Disgusted, Akane refuses to try it, criticizing his artificial way of cooking and blaming his obsession with that lifestyle. Realizing he's worse than she thought, she fears he can harm himself and decides to intervene. Determined to teach him real cooking, she prepares a meal, convinced he'll appreciate her effort and praise her skills. Meanwhile, Sato grows suspicious, thinking she might poison him since she keeps chuckling oddly. After setting the meal on the table, Akane assures him it's safe. Trusting her, Sato takes a bite and is reminded of his childhood. When asked for feedback, he calls it an average homemade dish. Before he can finish his critique, he angrily tries to snatch the plate, offended by his words. Sato refuses to give in, insisting he's not done. In the struggle, he ends up eating everything, which infuriates Akane, who then vows to make him suffer for it forever. Akane tries to express her frustration by hitting Sato, but he seems amused. The next morning, when she tries to wake him, he pulls her onto the bed after dreaming about Shizi, leaving her flustered. She forces him up, and in the kitchen, she points out the dirty dishes he left despite her doing all the cooking. Sato casually suggests using clean plates and says he'll only wash dishes once they pile up to the ceiling, which annoys her. She also scolds him for leaving toilet paper rolls and soap wrappers around. Sato insists trash should be thrown out monthly and claims it's pointless to reject waste. Akane, shocked by his mindset, doubts if he's even human and refuses to live in a mess. Sato apologizes for not being a neat freak but complains about daily baths, making her miserable about living with him. On their way to school, he reflects on how different they are and wonders if things will work out. That night, she scolds him for playing questionable video games, warning that people who enjoy those games could turn into criminals. When Akane tries to take the game console from Sato, the doorbell rings, making her let go abruptly. Sato loses his balance, falls to the floor, and accidentally unplugs the console. A few minutes later, she mentions that the package was just his belongings, so Sato goes to retrieve them. Afterward, he heads to the bathroom to mentally prepare for the next day, but upon entering, he finds Akane in the tub. Startled, he leaves to give her privacy, but since she doesn't react to his presence, he worries she may have fainted. Concerned, he re-enters and confirms she's only asleep. However, when he tries to move her, she ends up falling on top of him. To make things worse, she wakes up mortified and assumes he's a pervert. Sato attempts to explain, but Akane bluntly asks if he saw her lower half. His silence makes her angrier. Later, while getting ready for bed, she convinces herself that she must have dozed off due to exhaustion, so she finds his story believable. She tries to ask him about it, but Sato brushes her off, saying he's going to sleep, which irritates her. The next morning, feeling upset, Akane throws herself at Himari and confesses that there's someone she's struggling to get along with but wants to fix things. Himari suspects it's Sato, but Akane quickly denies it, swearing she'd never do anything with him. Frustrated, Akane admits she's at her limit and could explode if they keep arguing. Himari suggests she hug him, but Akane dismisses it, so Himari urges her to talk things out instead. Akane claims it's easy for her since she's a social butterfly, but Himari disagrees, saying it's not just about getting along, it's about respecting others too. Meanwhile, Shizi speaks privately with Sato, who reveals his home life is hell, with constant fights that ruin his appetite. While Shizi eats, she advises him to divorce, but Sato refuses, determined to inherit the Hojo group and not waste his efforts. Shizi says she doesn't want him to suffer and suggests he try to get along with Akane. Sato says it's impossible since they're completely incompatible even biologically. Shizi points out that while humans have preferences, it's mostly laziness and relationships need compromise. She asks if he's tried meeting Akane halfway, but Sato stays silent, unable to answer. Keeping in mind the importance of understanding others and staying in control, she notes that any CEO should possess that skill. There's only one possible outcome, Sato carrying her in his arms. When he asks why, she simply says it makes girls weak. Later, when Sato returns home, Akane greets him with an intimidating glare. He tries to avoid a confrontation, but she grabs his arm, making him tense. However, she quickly clarifies that she wants a serious talk about how they can stay married. She admits they're heading toward divorce, which benefits no one, so they sit at the table with tea to discuss things calmly. Akane confesses she might hate him, but if they must stay together, they need to find ways to make it more bearable. Sato agrees since he doesn't want to live in misery, though she warns him not to be rude. Returning to the topic, he suggests setting boundaries to ease tension and find a middle ground. Akane agrees, pointing out that household chores have been her main frustration. Sato offers to handle laundry and dishes, explaining he prefers doing them in bulk to save time. Akane warns Sato that leaving things untidy could invite bugs, but he brushes it off as normal. She points out that they aren't in the wilderness and messes can spread germs, so he needs to clean daily, even if it's inconvenient. Sato remembers Shizi's advice and agrees to do the dishes regularly. Akane asks if he has any requests, and embarrassed, he asks her to be patient if they accidentally touch in bed. She thinks it's perverted but agrees, setting strict rules, no hands under clothes. She also insists he play horror games with headphones and out of her sight. They agree on boundaries, and Sato mentions that expressing gratitude strengthens bonds. Akane asks him to compliment her cooking, even if it's just okay, since preparing meals takes effort. Later, she tells Himari that while she doesn't feel closer to Sato, they did talk for 5 hours. When Sato enters the bedroom, Akane quickly ends her call and invites him to touch her, but he clarifies it's only accidental contact, leaving her embarrassed. Another day, while walking home, Sato tells Shizy his conflict with Akane isn't resolved, but that he'll try to make amends. He asks for her help and later gives Akane a strawberry shortcake, remembering a note from her freshman essay. Surprised, Akane laughs, thanking him with a sweet smile that surprises him. At dinner, Sato compliments her cooking and she beams, her eyes shining, making him blush. While washing dishes, he reflects that Akane usually finds reasons to be annoyed. He wonders if she's up to something, but then realizes that when she smiles, she's truly beautiful. One evening, Akane asks Sato if he has time to watch a movie she rented. Sato suggests she use the TV alone, but Akane shyly clarifies that she wants him to join her. The movie turns out to be a 24-hour unedited film of kittens, and she manages to convince him to watch it with her. Akane enjoys the film thoroughly, though Sato eventually falls asleep. When it ends, Sato wakes abruptly, and Akane suggests they watch one of his favorite movies next. Sato explains he prefers games over movies and jokes she might get hooked. Akane insists she'd never get addicted, but 30 minutes later, she's having fun playing games with him. Sato is surprised by how enjoyable it is spending time with his longtime rival. Before bed, Akane thanks him and Sato offers to buy her favorite games and pick some movies for next time. Akane then asks him to stop addressing her so formally and call her by her first name. Flustered, Sato agrees. The next day at school, Himari notices they're no longer bickering as usual, which feels unusual. Akane asks Sato if their relationship has improved, but he quickly denies it, feeling uneasy. Without realizing it, she nervously calls him by his name, which Himari immediately picks up on. Embarrassed, Akane rushes out of class to avoid further questions. Later, Sato heads to the library, where Shizy surprises him and notices he's holding a book on communication skills. Sato explains he's trying to improve his relationship with Akane and finds the book helpful, as it emphasizes teamwork for building bonds. Motivated, Sato approaches Akane in the hallway. Though nervous, she reminds him she prefers not to talk much at school. Undeterred, Sato asks if she's busy after school. She mentions needing to study but has no plans with friends. He then suggests they go shopping together, which Akane misinterprets as a date. Before she can finish that thought, he pulls her into a classroom for privacy. She calls him a pervert for the move, but he clarifies that she brought up the idea of a date. Akane argues that guys and girls don't hang out without a reason. Regaining his composure, Sato explains he meant errands, offering to help her carry groceries. Both laugh nervously, eventually agreeing it's just grocery shopping. After arranging a meeting, Akane heads to the living room and unexpectedly bumps into Himari. Surprised, Akane recalls that Himari was supposed to be leaving for work, but Himari explains her shift was canceled and invites Akane out for ice cream. Akane declines, explaining she already has plans with someone, prompting Himari to assume it's Sato since Akane rarely mentions others. Himari teases her about it being a date, making Akane flustered. Panicking, Akane denies it and rushes off, accidentally stepping on Shizy, who reveals she was waiting for her as part of a trap. Shizy asks if Akane wants to team up to uncover Sato's plans, but still confused. Akane runs away again and finally meets up with Sato. Nervous, they head to a nearby convenience store to buy groceries, with Akane teaching Sato how to choose ingredients based on price and quality rather than grabbing the first item. They notice a crowd gathered for a chicken breast sale, and Akane hands Sato her bag, determined to compete. However, she's quickly defeated, and Sato tries to help but meets the same fate. Laughing off their bad luck, they decide to try again another day. Sato initially refuses, but she insists he join her next time. Her smile flusters him, so he agrees. While walking home, he tells her she's hardworking and would make a great wife, surprising her pleasantly. She teases that they're already married. That night, Akane wakes to find Sato leaning toward her and accuses him of trying something. He explains she hugged him first, which she denies, asking for an explanation. Sato, cornered, admits he thought she looked adorable asleep and couldn't resist poking her cheek. He apologizes, flustering Akane, who nervously asks how cute she looked. Sato admits he nearly lost his mind, which surprisingly pleases her, so she permits him to watch her sleep briefly. Neither sleeps well due to their nerves. The next morning, they exchange friendly greetings, but Akane burns her toast, which is unusual. Sato points out she's acting odd, noticing he isn't dressed for class yet. Later, they share a meal at the store and Himari arrives, puzzled that they seem to be enjoying themselves, prompting an awkward justification. Akane accuses Sato of harassing her and insists she'll call the police. Regarding the food, she admits it was something she threw on the floor that he picked up, but Sato denies her claims. The two argue as usual, though less intensely due to their lingering embarrassment or their growing closeness. Back at home, Sato finds Akane studying and asks why she bothers if it's just a quiz. She reminds him he got a perfect score last time, and he smugly explains he never studies since he memorizes lessons in class, adding that her situation must be tough. Annoyed, Akane tells him to leave and throws a plush at him. Later, Sato knocks on her door with a late-night snack, offering a strawberry sandwich. Delighted, Akane wonders about his intentions but takes a bite and finds it delicious, giving her energy to study all night. The next morning, Sato brings her more food, but at school, Akane collapses in the hallway from lack of sleep. Himari scolds her for neglecting her health and always being so dazed. Akane is suddenly enveloped in a powerful aura, declaring that even if it means pushing herself to the brink, her only goal is to secure the top grade in class. Himari reminds her that her health matters more than grades and points out that she can't beat Sato anyway. Undeterred, Akane vows a fiery determination to surpass him, even if it takes centuries. Himari laughs and mentions that they'll both graduate soon, asking if Akane plans to follow Sato to college if she hasn't surpassed him by then. Flustered, Akane denies it, saying that would imply she actually likes him. Later that night, Akane returns to her studies, but Sato stops by with a snack and finds her asleep at her desk. Realizing she's unwell, he gently checks her forehead and notices she has a fever. Though Akane insists she's fine, she reluctantly goes to bed. Feeling uncomfortable from sweating, Sato helps her cool down by wiping her face with a soft cloth. When she tries to get back to studying, he urges her to rest. However, Akane insists she must keep going to achieve her dream of becoming a doctor, someone who can save lives and ensure the people she loves stay healthy. Akane's parents can afford to send her to medical school, and her grandmother agreed to pay for her education if she married him. Because of this, she has to be polite to him. He easily gets good grades, but no matter how hard Akane works, she can never surpass him, which frustrates her. Sato tells her that some people are naturally more talented, but Akane responds that she hates when he says things like that, though she admits she has always admired him. This surprises him, and when Akane realizes what she said, she quickly asks him to forget it, clearly embarrassed. Soon after, Sato notices her fever has worsened and decides to call an ambulance. Akane insists it isn't necessary, saying ambulances are for people in serious danger and she couldn't forgive herself if someone critically died because of her. Unable to get a taxi, Sato carries Akane in his arms, explaining he can't ignore her suffering. Surprised by his strength, Akane realizes he cares deeply. As Sato runs to the hospital with her, he tells her he believes in her and her dream, confident she will never give up until it becomes reality. While running, Sato reflects on how he married a girl he dislikes but feels their marriage might still have a happy ending. One morning, Akane, now recovered from a cold, greets him warmly and their playful banter resumes. During their chat, Sato teases her about admitting she admires him, leaving her embarrassed. At school, Himari congratulates Sato on another perfect quiz score, but jokingly calls him dense, getting uncomfortably close before pulling away with a laugh. Akane quickly steps in, shyly warning Sato not to get too friendly with other girls since he has a wife, leaving him speechless as he realizes he's starting to think his wife is the cutest. The following morning, Sato rushes to his class when Akane calls out for him to stop. He refuses to pay attention, assuming she'll start speaking Japanese. In truth, she just wants to hand him a lunchbox, thinking he left it at home because he dislikes her cooking. However, when Sato admits he genuinely forgot it, she insists he eats every bite since she put in a lot of effort making it. During recess, just as Sato prepares to enjoy his meal, Shizi appears and demands he share the entire lunch with her. Sato declines, pointing out that she already had a big breakfast, but Shizi argues that men will never understand a woman's cravings. A quarrel ensues over the food, and Shizi takes advantage of her looks to turn the entire class against Sato. In the end, he gives in and agrees to share, but then Himari arrives and points out that he and Akane have matching lunchboxes. The whole class begins speculating that Akane prepared Sato's lunch, further fueling rumors that they are intimate every night. Flustered, they try to clarify that they aren't dating, but someone remarks that they've acted like a married couple from the start. Amidst the chaos, Shizi devours Sato's entire lunch, and when he confronts her, she nonchalantly claims she only eliminated the evidence for his own good. She then inquires about how things are at home and whether he's been getting that thing on his D at night. Later, Himari suddenly leaps in front of Sato to greet him, and when he warns her to be careful, she confidently replies that she's certain he'll catch her. As they walk to class, she asks if Akane really made his lunch, but Sato explains she just copied his. She then asks if he and Akane are dating and gets overjoyed when he says no. After she runs off excitedly, Shizi watches from a distance and notices that Himari's expression changes whenever she's around Sato. That night, the couple is in bed when Akane hears a noise in the house and starts screaming, thinking it's a ghost. Sato wakes up but ignores her and goes back to sleep, frustrating her. Determined not to let him rest, she keeps talking until he finally agrees to check. As he looks around, she clings to him, begging him not to leave. The next day, Sato is in his study when a frightened Akane enters, claiming she heard something moving in the living room. He suggests she take a picture, but she's too scared, thinking she'll be possessed. When he asks why she came, she says it's to protect him from ghosts. Later, while Sato is in the bathroom, Akane keeps knocking, pleading to be let in. That night, she returns to the study to announce she's taking a bath and asks him to join her for safety. Hoping for some action, Sato agrees and later watches her silhouette through the blinds as she keeps talking to assure he stays. The following day, Sato spends time with Shizi, who instantly deduces that he has come to her with a suitcase packed with marital troubles. She clarifies that everyone requires someone to lean on and that it's perfectly fine for them to rely on each other. Sato then shares that Akane constantly mentions a ghost in the house and has turned his life into a chaotic spectacle. Suspecting there might genuinely be a spirit present, Shizi decides to investigate for herself. Later, she directly asks Akane if she's married to Sato, declaring that nothing escapes her notice and that she is well aware they're getting dirty under the sheets. To ensure she doesn't spill the gossip to the entire class, the pair drags her into an unoccupied classroom, where Akane, fuming, assumes Sato is the one who blabbed. Sato frantically insists that he didn't reveal anything, and Shizi confesses that she simply pieced it together on her own. Akane then comes to terms with the idea that it's fine if Sato's family finds out and apologizes for not telling Shizi sooner. Shizi then announces that their house is infested with spirits and warns that Akane will be cursed if she doesn't banish them. She further explains that if the situation persists, Akane's grades will plummet by 50 points in every subject, prompting Akane to desperately plead for her assistance. That evening, they escort Shizi to their home, and she immediately senses the presence of spirits lingering outside. Akane starts to freak out, but Shizi reassures her, promising to locate the source and eliminate it to eradicate the spirits. Inside the residence, Sato guides Shizi to his study, where she immediately accuses him of possessing books so explicit that even the FBI would be too embarrassed to conduct a raid. Akane, appalled, realizes he has been hoarding a library all along, but Sato defends himself, claiming he only reads ordinary novels. Within the study, Shizi stumbles upon Sato's underwear and like a total creep starts sniffing them, remarking that they smell like detergent. However, Sato quickly snatches them away before the situation devolves into a Sweet Home Alabama situation. Moving on, Shizi attempts to inspect Akane's study, but Akane adamantly insists they skip it, warning that only God knows what horrors Shizi might uncover. Instead, she leads her to their bedroom, the very spot where Akane first encountered the ghost. After meticulously analyzing every conceivable scenario, Shizi deduces that the so-called ghost they've been searching for is actually herself. As it turns out, she has been visiting the house for the past few days, and based on everything she overheard, she suspects they mistakenly believe she was a spirit. When questioned about why she never clarified this earlier, she explains that she obtained keys from Tenryu but opted to sneak in to avoid disrupting their speedrun of making babies. As a reward for cracking the case, Shizi demands they cook her dinner, having thoroughly enjoyed Akane's homemade lunch in class. She then showers Akane with praise, declaring her the best chef in existence, despite the reality that the only thing Akane excels at making is an absolute mess. Completely falling for the flattery, Akane whips up an elaborate meal, and when Sato wipes the food off her face, she suddenly realizes they are far closer than she had initially thought. After supper, Shizi learns to play a feline-themed game while sitting in Sato's lap, but the man quickly realizes something is off with Akane. When he questions her, she insists she's perfectly fine and warns him that she'll pull his teeth out if he asks again. When Sin decides to take a shower, Shizi announces she will join him, casually revealing that she bathes with him all the time. However, Akane suspects they're doing more than just washing up and insists they bathe separately. Later that night, Akane sneaks into bed and admits she had an entire list of grievances she couldn't voice in front of Shizi. Sato puts his book aside to listen, and Akane expresses her frustration that he never told her he had bought the cat game. Sato explains that she was preoccupied with studying and he didn't want to disturb her, but Akane argues that she still needs breaks now and then. She also laments not being the first to try the game, though she jokingly claims that it's all part of her plan to get a head start and beat him. This sparks playful teasing between them, and Akane says she can finally rest easy now that she has vented. Sato then asks if that was the only thing troubling her, and Akane hesitantly admits there's something else. She gets a bit jealous seeing him and Shizi so close. However, she quickly changes the subject, warning Sato to keep his hands away from her rice cakes, to which Sato responds that he isn't touching her at all. At that moment, Shizi slips out from between them, unveiling that she has existed since the beginning of civilization. She discloses that she and Sato always shared a bed in their former home, clarifying that they've been together since childhood and that she feels the most at ease around him. Noticing Akane's discomfort, she prepares to leave, but Akane insists she stay, admitting she isn't ready to have her pipes cleared in the middle of the night while Seigo is asleep. Shizi then asks if Akane gets envious when Seigo gives her so much attention. Akane tries to act nonchalant, but Shizi catches her blushing and advises her to confess her feelings to Seigo. Otherwise, he'll never know. Himari had always wanted to be close to Akane, even when Akane showed no interest in being friends. Undeterred, Himari kept chatting with her and finding excuses to start conversations. Her persistence paid off when she finally convinced Akane to hang out by bribing her with a tasty strawberry parfait. Now the two sat in a cafe discussing Akane's feelings for Sato. Akane quickly dismissed any romantic interest, but Himari gathered her courage and admitted she had a crush on him. Shocked, Akane couldn't understand how Himari could like someone like Sato. Determined, Himari defended her feelings by listing his best qualities, mentioning his reliability in crisis. This triggered a memory for Akane. Sato had once looked after her out of concern. Himari continued, praising his confidence and hidden kindness, recalling how he checked on her when no one else did. She then asked for Akane's help in getting closer to him, pointing out Akane's seemingly strong connection with Sato despite their constant bickering. Though hesitant, Akane agreed. Himari suggested she jot down everything she knew about Sato to help her learn more about him. For the first time, Akane realized that despite sharing a home with Sato, she barely knew anything about him. Meanwhile, back home, Sato was calmly reading a book, until he noticed Akane intensely staring at him, pen and notebook in hand. Akane's strange behavior persists into the evening when Sato catches her lurking outside his window, clearly spying on him during dinner. She takes it further by recording a video of him eating. Feeling uneasy, Sato finally demands an explanation. Out of nowhere, Akane asks about his type of girl and favorite food. Seeing no harm, he replies that he has no particular preference in girls but loves steak and sushi. Akane raises an eyebrow at his expensive taste but is slightly disgusted when he reveals he prefers his steak rare, arguing that rare is just raw. The next morning, she exaggerates her findings to Himari, claiming Sato likes his meat raw. Instead of being repulsed, Himari finds this untamed side of him oddly charming. Surprised by her reaction, Akane shares more details, mentioning that Sato enjoys video games and reading before bed. Himari, intrigued, asks how Akane knows this, prompting her to quickly cover up by saying Sato had told Shizi. When asked what games he plays, Akane absent-mindedly describes his love for horror games in detail, unintentionally revealing how much she's observed. Later, in the kitchen, Sato looks disappointed to hear that fish is on the menu instead of steak. Akane had asked plenty about Sato's favorite food, so he assumed she'd make him steak. Feeling unexpectedly guilty about the misunderstanding, she decides to cook it herself. She and Sato go shopping for ingredients, and once home, Akane prepares the meal, anxiously awaiting his reaction. Sato takes a hesitant bite and is pleasantly surprised, even praising her cooking. Overwhelmed with emotion, Akane tears up as he finally acknowledges her skills. When Sato remarks that he loved to eat this every day, Akane momentarily thinks he's proposing. He quickly corrects her, reminding her they're technically already married, but she's still thrilled. As she excitedly promises to cook for him, Sato notices how close they've become, especially her slightly provocative posture. The next day, Himari casually asks Sato about his type. He explains that he doesn't categorize people like that. True love means appreciating someone as a whole. Himari, though impressed, brushes it off, rumbling about guys only liking her for her looks. Sato sympathizes, saying it must be hard being attractive. Taking it as a compliment, she unexpectedly blurts out a confession, only to laugh it off and hurry to her seat before he can react. Sato is just as flustered, his face tinged with a faint blush that even Shizi notices as she emerges from beneath him. Later at home, while Sato is engrossed in his video games, Akane sneaks into his study, hoping to uncover something useful to report to Himari. As she rummages around, she finds a notebook labeled Secret and tries to read it, but before she can open it, Sato appears in the doorway, catching her in the act. Thinking quickly, Akane shifts the blame, accusing him of leaving it out on purpose to tempt her. To divert attention from her snooping, she asks for a book recommendation. Sato suggests a history book, claiming its unexpected humor is its charm. When Akane tells Himari, she attempts to read it but quickly gives up, finding it too complex. Akane apologizes for not requesting something easier, but Himari reassures her, saying it gives her the perfect conversation starter with Sato. Watching from the doorway, Akane feels a pang of jealousy but doesn't understand why. Inside, Sato and Himari talk effortlessly, and he thanks her for keeping his arguments with Akane from escalating. Himari laughs before revealing that Akane was actually the one who suggested the book. Sato frowns, puzzled by her motives. Himari then reminisces about how Akane once defended her from bullies who mocked her blonde hair. Despite the judgment of others, Akane never cared and remained by Himari's side. Sato praises Himari's hair, telling her it looks great on her. She smiles, remembering how Akane once said the same thing, boosting her confidence and ending the bullying. Outside, Shizi teases that Himari and Sato make a good couple since Himari has liked him since freshman year. She wonders if Akane disapproves even though Sato is better suited with Himari. Later, Himari hugs Akane excitedly, saying she can now talk to Sato anytime and shares his compliment. She promises Akane strawberry tarts and suggests chatting at Akane's place. Akane's excitement fades when she remembers she no longer lives in her old home. She awkwardly says she now lives in a half-cut barrel. Himari senses the excuse, knowing Akane once boasted about her house. Akane reluctantly agrees and warns Sato to stay out of sight. She starts hiding his things, but before she's done, Himari rings the doorbell. Akane panics, unsure where to hide Sato, while he tells her to stall. Before she can finish, Akane opens the door and lets Himari in. With no time left, Sato ducks into the living room and the girls chat in the kitchen. Himari asks if she can take Sato on a date and Akane, confused, hesitates. Thinking Akane likes Sato, Himari reassures her that if that's true, she'll step back. Akane denies her feelings, but Sato overhears and feels a pang of disappointment. The next day, Himari gathers the courage to ask Sato out, and he agrees. Outside, Shizi asks Akane if she's okay with it, reminding her Sato is technically unfaithful, and that she clearly has feelings for him. Akane, unsettled, stays calm, telling herself it's for the best since their marriage is only on paper. That evening, Sato mentions Himari's confession and their date. Akane congratulates him but asks why he's telling her. He reminds her of their marriage and wants to make sure she's fine with it. Akane snaps that it doesn't matter because their marriage was forced. The next day, as Sato prepares to leave, he asks again if she's okay with it. She feigns indifference but stops him with a hug, admitting she's jealous and doesn't want to see him with another girl. Sato smiles, revealing he turned down the date and offers to make it up by shopping together, even buying her matching rings to ease her jealousy. She's flustered but takes his hand as they go on their date. The next day, Himari remains optimistic despite being rejected and vows to try again. She boasts that persistence is her strength, the same way she earned Akane's friendship. Akane, standing nearby, coolly says Himari needs her approval first. Sato will only date girls she allows. Watching from a distance, Akane vows not to lose him to anyone. Himari unpacks the lunch she made for Sato, raw meat and garlic. Akane notes it's his favorite, but Sato refuses, saying he brought his own food. Akane insists he try it, reminding him of Himari's effort, and her classmates join in, pressuring him. Reluctantly, he agrees. Himari thanks him and even offers to feed him. Surprisingly, despite its raw look, the meat is well cooked and tasty. When Sato tries feeding himself, she refuses, making him feel like a baby bird. Akane jokes he should eat her lunch too, but Himari playfully claims she's jealous. Akane gets defensive, but Himari reassures her and feeds her as well, leaving everyone confused. After class, Himari praises Sato as the smartest student and admits she's struggling in math, asking if he can tutor her. Though hesitant, he agrees. Excited, she invites him over since her parents won't be home. Sato is skeptical, recalling past incidents, but she insists she'll make him fall for her. Meanwhile, Akane, secretly eavesdropping, gets annoyed. She interrupts, warning Himari that if something happens, they might have to marry. Himari laughs it off but suggests they all study together. Shizi suddenly appears, pointing out Himari has been in third place for a while and should join their study sessions. With 3 top students helping her, she's sure to improve. They head to Akane's house, but teaching Himari proves tough. She barely grasps math. Akane recalls how her grades slipped in their first year, so they start with 10th grade material, which bores Shizi. By the end, Himari praises Sato's teaching and moves closer, eager to continue. This irks Akane, who suggests a game instead. They play a memory challenge with Akane determined to win. As it gets late, Sato goes to get snacks, but Akane follows, claiming she's afraid he'll disappear. She then remarks on his sharp memory. He's not just smart, but incredibly skilled at memory games. Rather than boasting, Sato simply comments on how unsettling it is, admitting that his memory is so sharp it's almost eerie. Every member of the Hojo family has a unique trait. Sato's is his exceptional memory, while Shizi excels at solving complex calculations. Sato recalls being accused of stalking just because he remembers every small detail about people. Akane wishes she had the same ability so she wouldn't have to study so much and could be more thoughtful toward others. Sato teases her, leading to their usual bickering as they walk. Meanwhile, at Akane's house, Himari and Shizi enjoy playing video games. When Sato and Akane return, they catch them in the act, unaware that the console belongs to Sato. To avoid suspicion, Akane claims it's her father's and they move on. After studying, Himari thanks Sato for his help and suggests they do it at his place next time. This flusters both Sato and Akane, and Himari, amused by Sato's reaction, accidentally spills tea on herself. Sato quickly hands her a towel, and Himari questions how he knew where to find it. Though surprised, Sato plays it off as a lucky guess, which Himari accepts, calling him a genius. Shizi then takes Himari to the sink to clean up. Left alone, the couple talks, and Akane scolds Sato, blaming him for the situation, saying it wouldn't have happened if he and Himari hadn't been flirting. Sato denies it, but Akane insists it's his fault for agreeing to tutor her, pointing out he never even tutored Akane before. Sato explains that he tried, but she kept yelling at him. In the middle of their argument, the lights suddenly go out and Akane screams. Sato reassures her it's just a blackout and teases her for being so easily scared. He suggests checking the breaker, but Akane clings to him, refusing to be left alone in the dark, even in her own home. Out of nowhere, she asks if guys dislike stubborn girls. Though confused, Sato responds that she's fine as she is, calling her shy, headstrong, and hardworking. As they continue their conversation, the lights come back on and Shize walks in now changed. Shocked by how close they seem, she teases them for finally getting along, but they both quickly deny it. The next day, Shize struggles in class again and asks Sato for help, hoping Akane will join too. As expected, Akane is grumpy about anything involving Sato. However, to his surprise, once Shizi and Himari leave, Akane approaches him flirtatiously, asking him to teach her the lesson. When they return home, Sato explains his study technique to Akane, a method he developed through an experiment. Surprisingly, it works well for her, though he notes that it wasn't as effective on others before. This leads him to believe Akane is naturally intelligent. She wants to keep studying, but Sato insists she should rest to avoid getting sick again. They argue, but Akane wins, prompting Sato to ask why she is so determined. He knows she wants to be a doctor, but still wants to understand her reasons. His curiosity makes her heart race. Akane reveals that her younger sister was bedridden due to illness, and their parents struggled with hospital bills. Feeling helpless back then, she decided to become a doctor to save others in similar situations. The next day, while watching the news, she quickly changes the channel when an idol appears. When Sato asks why, she dismisses it but comments on how lucky he is to have Shizi, remembering her own little sister. Her words make Sato feel guilty. After class, he asks Shizi for advice on cheering up Akane. Shizi teases that he must be in love with her, but Sato denies it, saying he just doesn't want a gloomy roommate. Shizi suggests taking Akane shopping for things she likes: girly fashion, stylish accessories, and cute sweets. Sato is caught off guard by Akane's feminine side, and Shizi even suggests he practice asking her out since a global sweets festival is coming up. At home, Akane is quietly cooking when Sato nervously invites her out on their next day off. Stunned, she questions why he isn't asking Shizi instead and is so flustered she doesn't notice her pot burning. Despite her shock, she agrees. Later, while eating with her grandmother, Akane shyly admits Sato invited her out. Overjoyed, her grandmother insists she could die happy and reveals a closet full of elegant dresses saved for when Akane falls in love. Though Akane denies any feelings, her grandmother even shows her lingerie she set aside. On the day of the date, Akane wears a pink dress that leaves Sato speechless. They visit different shops, and he discovers she's banned from a cat cafe for being overly enthusiastic. They consider karaoke, but Akane hesitates after Himari mentions couples usually kiss there. Still, they go in, pick songs, and even sing a duet. After a few performances, they grow tired and stop at a lemonade shop with a swing to relax. Akane asks why he invited her, and Sato explains he feels guilty for making her think about her sister and wants to cheer her up. Moved, Akane agrees to go anywhere he wants, leading them to a supplement store where Sato enthusiastically samples everything, even downing protein powder without water, leaving Akane stunned. On their way home, Akane notices a ring in a shop window. Sato suggests she buy it, but it's too expensive for a high schooler. As they continue walking, Akane thanks him for the day, saying she feels better. Sato admires her rare smile, wishing he could see it more often. A childhood memory resurfaces, watching her mother cook while wearing a ring. She once asked if it got in the way, but her mother explained it fit perfectly and symbolized her father's love, a promise they would always be together. She told Akane she would understand one day when she found someone who made her fall in love too. The next day, Akane is back to nitpicking everything Sato does. He wishes they could get along longer, but remembers how much Akane wanted the ring she saw yesterday, sparking an idea. At school, Sato asks if he can visit Shizi's house. She's curious if there's a reason, but he just says they haven't spent time together lately. Excited, she calls for her limo, and soon they're off. Knowing Rue's reckless driving, Sato asks her to be careful, but she only knows speed. After a wild ride, they reach Shizi's mansion and head to her room. She immediately starts changing, but Sato insists she do it elsewhere. She refuses, preferring his help, so he reluctantly assists. Once dressed, she asks what game he wants to play, but he has no preference, so she suggests Vampires, a game where she tries to pin him down and drain him. In the middle of the game, Sato's aunt walks in. Since she adores Sato as much as Shizi does, she invites him to stay for dinner and the night. However, he declines, needing to return home since Akane is waiting. While visiting, Sato asks his aunt for a part-time job at her company. She's puzzled since he could just ask his grandpa for money, but Sato insists on earning it himself. When she questions why, he admits he's saving up for a gift, and both Shizi and her mother realize who it's for. Shizi feels hurt, thinking he used playing with her as an excuse to speak with her mother, but Sato assures her he genuinely wanted to. Meanwhile, Shizi's mother disapproves of him working, believing it's unfitting for the Hojo heir, especially since he was already forced into marriage. Sato suspects she's against his and Akane's union, and she doesn't deny it, having hoped he'd marry Shizi instead. Regardless, she offers him a task, helping the localization team translate software written in an obscure coding language. She expects it to take him 3 days, but Sato confidently claims he can master it overnight. That evening, he speed reads through the material, memorizing it instantly. Akane barges in, shocked to see him studying, but Sato clarifies he's just learning a language. After a few more minutes, he declares he's finished. All Sato needs now is a good night's sleep for the memory to settle. Akane is impressed and jokingly says she wishes she had him inside her, then immediately gets flustered and clarifies that she meant his brain. Curious, she asks why he's learning a new language, but Sato avoids mentioning his jobs and simply tells her it's not her concern. The next day, he leaves school with Shizi and heads to her place for work, but she sits in his lap, making it hard to focus. When she refuses to move and even bites his neck, he asks if she's upset about him getting a gift for Akane. Shizi says that's not the problem, she knows it will make things easier for him. However, ever since his marriage, he's been too busy to spend time with her, and she sometimes feels lonely. Sato apologizes, but Shizi reassures him it's not his fault. Still, she makes a single request. She wants him to stay in bed with her until she falls asleep. Later that night, Sato finally returns home, only to be confronted by Akane, who has been waiting for him. She demands to know where he was so late, but he brushes her off, saying he just had errands to run and it's none of her business before heading to bed. As Akane catches Sato's scent, she notices a girl's fragrance on him. Curious, she confides in her grandmother the next day, mentioning how Sato has been coming home late and skipping dinner. Her grandmother suggests that since Sato is handsome, he's likely popular with girls. Akane admits that a girl has a crush on him, but since they're just friends, she would have heard if they were spending time together. Realizing Akane's concern, her grandmother advises her to be honest with herself. The next day, Himari tearfully tells Akane that Sato rejected her again. As Akane comforts her, she notices that Shizi, who walks by, carries the same scent she smelled on Sato. That evening, Sato stays out late again, leaving Akane to eat alone. Trying to ignore her feelings, she remembers her grandmother's words and admits she wants Sato around. She reaches for her phone, only to realize she doesn't have his number. Thinking quickly, she checks a phone book, finds Shizi's house number, and calls. A maid answers, and when Akane asks if Sato is there, Rue confirms that he is. Akane is caught off guard when Shizi's mother unexpectedly takes the phone. Flustered, she insists she only needs a moment with Sato, but Shizi's mother refuses, saying he's too busy, and their marriage is meaningless anyway. She then abruptly hangs up. That night, Sato wraps up his work and meets with Shizi's mother, who has already received confirmation of his flawless translation. Skipping the usual review, she pays him and asks why he didn't tell Akane about his job. He wanted it to be a surprise. Rue then drives him to a jewelry store to buy the ring. When Sato finally gets home, he's met with an enraged Akane. Furious over how much time he spent at Shizi's house, she snaps that if he likes Shizi so much, he should have married her instead. Sato assures her they're just close, not romantically involved, but it does little to ease her anger as she storms off. Before Akane leaves, Sato stops her and reveals a ring, the same one she saw in the jewelry store days ago. He explains that he had been working late translating for Shizi's mother to afford it. Flustered, Akane struggles to respond, so Sato calls it a peace offering, hoping they can get along. She runs off without a word, making him worry he overstepped, but she soon returns, thanking him. The next morning, Sato finds her happily admiring the ring. When she asks if he'll be out late, he assures her he's done, and she excitedly promises to make him dinner. Throughout the day, she keeps glancing at the ring, and by dinner, she has prepared an elaborate steak meal, his favorite, though she may have overdone it. Sato eats every bite to not hurt her feelings. The next morning, still feeling stuffed, he notices Akane wearing the ring. Before anyone sees, he quickly grabs her hand and leads her away. Akane is confused when Sato suddenly pulls her aside, but he explains that while he's happy she likes the ring, their classmates can't see it and ask questions. Akane agrees to keep it in her pouch and only wear it at home. However, once home, she realizes with horror that she lost the ring. She frantically searches her bag, then retraces her steps back to school, but it's nowhere to be found. Devastated, she briefly considers taking a shady modeling job to buy a replacement, but it wouldn't be the same. The ring represents Sato's love, so she must find it. The next day, she checks the grocery store with no luck and sits on a park bench to cry. Shizi soon arrives, quickly realizing what happened. Akane panics, not wanting Sato to know, but Shizi reassures her and promises to help. They search the entire school, but by nightfall, it's still missing. Akane apologizes for keeping Shizi out late and tells her she can go home. Akane insists on searching alone despite Shizi urging her to share the burden. She feels guilty for losing the ring and believes it's her responsibility to find it. Shizi suggests asking Sato for help, but Akane refuses. Meanwhile, Sato wonders why she's out so late. Expecting her at the door, he's surprised to see Shizi instead, who came for Akane's curry and keeps quiet about her absence. The next day, Sato follows Akane and realizes she's been looking for her missing ring. Finding her in tears under a bridge, he reassures her they can replace it, but she insists it's irreplaceable. It was the first true gift he gave her. Understanding its value, Sato helps retrace her steps, recalling when she likely dropped it. He checks his storm drain, retrieves the pouch, and returns it to her. Relieved, Akane embraces him, vowing to keep it safe. Meanwhile, the girl tied to the Hojo arrives in Japan, determined to take Sato for herself. The next morning, while Sato sits on a school bench, he's approached by Maho, a girl he's never spoken to. Confused, he asks who she is and what she wants. After digging through his memories, he vaguely remembers seeing her once but still has no clue who she really is. Maho is heartbroken that Sato doesn't recognize her, but she boldly confesses her feelings and asks him to be her boyfriend. Stunned by the sudden confession from a stranger, Sato questions how she knows so much about him, like how he rejected Himari and that he lives with Akane. Maho avoids answering and pushes him again to date her. When he refuses, she threatens to tell everyone he's married to Akane. Thinking she's bluffing, Sato is caught off guard when she starts shouting, forcing him to cover her mouth, which she uses as a chance to try and kiss him. Luckily, Shizi steps in, kicking Maho away and vowing to protect Sato. However, she lets her guard down, and when Maho returns, she targets Shizi, charmed by her cuteness. Maho even asks Sato if she can keep Shizi, but he quickly declines. Ignoring him, Maho tries to kidnap Shizi, but the school bell rings just in time, prompting Maho to drop her and rush off to pack her things. Sato feels relieved to finally unwind, but Shizi senses that Maho might be trouble and warns him to be cautious. Sato then returns to his classroom to pack up and notices Shizi, Akane, and Himari already heading home, giving him hope for some alone time. However, that plan quickly falls apart when Maho shows up, causing the other boys to get jealous over another cute girl talking to him, forcing Sato to escape with her. Once alone, he asks why she chose to approach him, and Maho admits it was love at first sight. Sato doubts this, thinking he's not attractive enough, but Maho insists he is. She then slides down a railing, making Sato catch her, and when he scolds her for being reckless, she explains that life's too short to always play it safe. You never know when it might end. That's why she confessed her feelings right away. Though Sato struggles to relate, never having been in love, Maho asks if he has feelings for Akane since they live together. He explains it's not about liking her, he simply has no choice. Maho then suggests he try falling for her instead and already has the perfect first date planned. Sato initially refuses, but when Maho asks if he could at least show her around since she's new in town, he agrees. They end up at a knockoff McDonald's where Maho orders a giant cheeseburger and somehow devours it in seconds. Sato is stunned by her love for junk food but can't judge. He's just as into it. Maho mentions how her sister always scolds her for eating junk, though she knows it's out of care. Suddenly, she spots sauce on Sato's finger and impulsively licks it off. Sato is shocked by her boldness but more alarmed when she snaps a photo mid-lick. He insists she delete it, but when she refuses and runs, he chases her. Outside, he finds her catching her breath around the corner, finally giving in and deleting the pic. Relieved, Sato suggests heading back to the shopping district. Maho is surprised. He still wants to hang out, but Sato was never actually mad. He just didn't want embarrassing photos out there. Though she's heard him and Akane argue a lot, Sato seems pretty chill, so she figures they just don't get along. Sato can't deny it since he and Akane don't get along, so Maho asks why he doesn't just break up with her. But that's not an option for him. Later that evening, after showing Maho around town, Sato says he's heading home, but Maho insists on spending the night at his place. When he refuses, she blackmails him again, threatening to reveal his marriage to Akane. With no other choice, Sato lets her come along. At his house, Akane opens the door, ready to scold him for being late, but freezes when she sees Maho on his arm. Sato is shocked to learn Maho is Akane's sister, and Akane is surprised Maho never mentioned it. Maho hugs her big sister, saying it's been ages since they last met, but soon makes things awkward, forcing Akane to push her away. Sato was confused. He thought Akane's sister was dead. Akane doesn't understand why, explaining she only said she couldn't see her sister anymore. It was true. Maho had been traveling the world and just returned to Japan, now eager to check out Akane and Sato's married life. Maho heads to the bedroom and seeing the double bed, asks Akane if she and Sato share it every night. Akane confirms, leading Maho to assume they've been intimate, as siblings usually don't sleep together without some reason. Akane reassures her nothing like that has happened, which eases Maho's mind, though she still wants to keep watch. She asks to stay the night, and Akane agrees, even offering for her to stay as long as she likes. To celebrate Maho's arrival, Akane decides to make porridge for dinner, but both Maho and Sato dislike the idea. Maho especially, having been forced to eat it as a child when sick. Despite this, Akane heads to the fridge for ingredients but finds Shizui's nearly frozen body inside. Sato checks on her, and though Shizui asks for mouth-to-mouth, Sato points out she's fine since she can talk. Maho rushes over, offering to help, but Shizui avoids her and hides behind Sato. Maho insists on taking Shizui, but Sato refuses. Maho reminds him that as Akane's husband, he's her brother-in-law, but Shizui refuses to give up her title and challenges Maho to a little sister duel. Sato has no idea what that means, but before he can ask, Maho is behind him, trying to give him this steep bro treatment. Sato isn't impressed and gives her a 0. Shizui then shows Maho how it's done, pretending to collapse and triggering Sato's protective instincts. He picks her up, making it clear Shizui won. Still, Akane insists Maho is the best little sister. Later, Akane and Maho go to Akane's room for privacy. Akane asks why Maho didn't mention her visit, and Maho explains she wanted it to be a surprise, especially since she arrived hanging onto Sato's arm. Maho then suggests she marry Sato instead of Akane, pointing out it's what their grandparents intended and that she can persuade Grandma to fund Akane's education without the marriage. Akane rejects this, saying Maho couldn't handle Sato. He's arrogant and self-centered, even if he is good at everything. Maho doesn't see an issue since she's confident she'd get along well with Sato. They both love junk food and video games, unlike Akane, who dislikes them. Akane wonders if Maho is sure about this, suggesting it's better to marry someone she truly loves. But Maho insists she really likes Sato, even if she barely knows him, because he's hot, which is enough for her. She even shows Akane a photo from earlier to prove how close they are. Later, while Sato is bathing, Maho barges in, wanting to join him. Though he tells her to leave, she ignores him and hops in, asking if he'd consider marrying her since their grandparents only care about their grandkids tying the knot. She promises full commitment and says he can do whatever he wants with her. Sato struggles to resist and says he'll think about it, but Maho assures him she's serious. After his bath, Sato looks drained and Akane asks why. He explains that Maho's energy is exhausting, but Akane is happy to see her so lively after being a sickly child. Despite Maho's intense personality, Akane wants her to be happy. As Sato prepares for bed, Akane hesitantly asks if he wants to break up. Shocked, Sato quickly asks why, but Akane can't find the words to explain.